Hello everyone and welcome to this live stream. I'm today with Thomas Buberl, the CEO of the AXA Group. AXA is an insurance and asset management company which won for the ninth time in a row the World's Top Insurance Prize. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sarah.
And thank you very much for having us here in the headquarters of Paris. Before we start, I'd like to set up a little bit the stage. So we are now in live with 5 different universities, namely HEC Paris, EPFL Lausanne, Saint-Gallen, École 42 in Paris, and IE in Spain. We've received dozens of questions from the students following this live, and we will now try to answer as much questions as we can in 30 minutes. But first, what would you like to say to all these students following us?
I'm extremely happy that this is technically possible. When I went to a university about 20 years ago, there was only one dimension, which was the physical dimension. Now to really have so many universities connected and learn from each other is fantastic.
It's incredible, indeed. And so we maybe should start with the first theme regarding your career as a CEO. So the first question is from Servain, who's from the University of Saint-Gallen. She wonders how you ended up in the insurance industry.
It was actually the fault of St. Gallen that I ended up in the insurance industry because
that's funny.
I did my PhD in St. Gallen on the credit risk valuation in the US bond market. And essentially it worked like an insurance tariff. So that was my first exposure to insurance. But obviously then I went off after university to consulting because I wanted to have a bit of a broader industry view. And at some point I didn't have a project, and they put me on an insurance project. And everybody said, "Oh, you poor guy, going into such an industry, make sure that you get out of it very quickly." But when you look a little bit under the, let's say, dusty impression that the insurance companies often have, you find something extremely incredible. You find a company and companies, an industry that is working in the middle of society, caring for people, helping people when they're in difficult situations, and that has really attracted me to the insurance industry. And secondly, I've seen that there's many things that need to be done. Leadership was not at the level you found it in other companies. When you think about the digital revolution, it hasn't arrived yet, so there is plenty of potential. And I said to myself, look, I want to go there. And so I always took challenges that nobody else wanted. So to give you an example, after I went into consulting, I decided to then join a client of mine, which and there was a post open, which was the head of distribution and marketing. This was completely, let's say, it was a reorganization that was not well led, and it had to be tidied up. Nobody wanted the job, so I said, fine, I'll try it. At 32, you have nothing to lose, and it was very challenging to go from a consultant to become a leader of distribution. You have to learn a lot, but that's how I started, that's how I loved it. And I also then obviously was bought later by AXA, because the second signature I had to give at the time was the confidentiality agreement for the AXA acquisition. So I was bought into AXA, but on my way towards the CEO also left once, went to the competition, but came back to AXA.
Okay. And you've just said that you had to learn many things to become a leader. That's actually the second question that Loïc asked himself. So what would you say are the main qualities to become a great leader?
Look, my answer should actually be asked me again in 5 years, because I've only been CEO for 2 years, but I can give you a few of my insights that I have learned on that journey. I think the most important one, and I take the one that my predecessor gave me when he handed over to me. He said, look, be yourself, be authentic, do not copy anybody that was there beforehand. I think that is, for me, the most important. You need to invent your own story. You need to also invent it with your people. So that, for me, is then the second one, which is you need to have people around you that can really help you to shape. As a leader, one has qualities, but not all the qualities. And to make sure that there are people around you that can help you to really shape something is extremely important. And that something, for me, is you need to create a vision. I think to just say we save X million or we increase the profit by Y excites nobody. we really took the time to develop a vision for AXA, a vision that excites people and that is also rooted in the societal course of AXA. And in order to get there and to every day ask yourself again and again and challenge yourself, I think there's a fourth one for me, which is be humble and go out there and learn. I spend a lot of time out there. I was just in Seattle with my whole team, where we looked at Amazon and Microsoft, and the whole purpose was, what can we learn for ourselves? And to be humble, to put yourself in other shoes, and to really understand. And often the learnings are where you don't expect them to be.
So according to you, we are not really born a leader, we become a leader.
It's both. I think you need to be born into it, but there's a long way how you can be shaped. And in order to be shaped, you need to be open to be shaped, i.e. You need to get feedback from others, take it in, think what you can do differently. And if I look at myself today versus myself 20 years ago, it's a different self. There are some attitudes that have always stayed the same, but you learn over time and you are being shaped over time. And I think that's also the beauty of it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move to your business and vision and possible impacts of the new technologies. So we've got Victor from École 42, who's asking you, what are the biggest challenges in the insurance industry today?
Before I answer it, I have to say, Victor, I do envy you, because I visited École 42 with Xavier Niel, and I was amazed by how this university works. It's, by the way, actually a very modern concept, and it is. It also added, this visit added to, what are the challenges in the insurance industry? Because if you look, the insurance industry has been there for many, many years. It is actually a mutual business, so one helps the other. A little bit like École 42. You have no teachers, the students help each other and control each other, that things are going well. And this has been stable for a long, long time. But now, all of a sudden, we find ourselves in an environment that is completely different. You have low interest rates, very low interest rates, which even negative interest rates, which you haven't had for many, many years. So that raises a lot of questions on some of the business, what to do with it, how to position yourself. You have topics around regulation, and in particular international regulation that puts the global model of insurance at question. And then you have clearly one thing which for me is the most important, which is the change of the customer. The customer does not want to continue the same way they did. And if you look what we are doing, we are paying claims. We are paying claims for our customers, and we are very good at this. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's only 20% of our customers who have a claim. The other 80% we do nothing for, or not enough. And the question is really, how can we develop based on these challenges so that the customer says, look, I want more from you. How can we then develop a new business model?
And do you have an answer for this question or not yet?
Definitely, because at the very beginning of my tenure, I had very little time, because I was nominated on the 21st of March, and the first deadline I had was the 21st of June, which was the Investor Day. And so in those 3 months, I worked with my team on really understanding what is our vision for the insurance industry. And that vision was very much, we need to become from a payer to a partner, exactly go away from only paying claims to partnering with the customer to really be able to serve the customer beyond the claims payment. The second question was very much, in which ambition does it fit in? And we said, look, this needs to fit in an ambition where we empower people to live a better life. So really make sure that beyond the claims payment, I can actually avoid claims and live a better life. And the question was then how we are going to do it. And how we are going to do it was to focus very much on lines of business, on business that have many touch points with the customer, health business, the commercial business. And this topic around health is this fundamental topic, health of the individual, health of the company. And to also go beyond the just sheer payment of claims in order to serve the customer better.
Okay, now let's move on to the other questions, otherwise we might not have the time to ask as much as we would want to. So we have Garance, who's from HEC in Paris. She's asking you, so did you review AXA's strategic plan when you became CEO? So you just talked a little bit
Yes,
about it?
I had to, because my predecessor finished the last plan, and we always have 5-year plans, and it was clear a new plan would have started with me, but I had very little time. 3 months is not enough.
And what are the major improvements you've done?
So as I said earlier, the change was very much to say, look, how can we adapt to the new customer reality? To say, A, we focus the business on less countries. I mean, AXA is very big in 64 countries. So we said, look, we cannot continue being everywhere.
Yeah.
We are focusing ourselves on 10 plus 6 countries, so big change. Secondly, we focus our business on the businesses that have a customer contact, a natural customer contact, that are situated around health of the individual and health of the company. Thirdly, we completely changed the organizational model. It was a very centralized model where we had a lot of unclarity around responsibilities, and we changed it to a very simple model where we empowered the countries. And fourthly, we pushed innovation. So in order to go into the services around the insurance coverage, we bought companies. So we bought one company in the US called Maestro Health. We developed a telemedicine service from 0 customers to 10 million. So there's a lot that has happened.
Talking about health, there is Elios from the IE Business School in Spain who's asking you, why are you investing so much in health? Why is it so much important?
The Spanish market is a fantastic example for it. I mean, in general, health is very dear and close to all of our heart. We are ready to invest much more in our own health than maybe in our pension that is 30 years away. And so we are challenged with the fact that the health costs are increasing every year. And normally the health costs grow roughly 2 to 3 times the development of the country GDP, which means it's impossible to sustain that dynamic. So, and this rapid explosion of health cost is linked to inefficiency in the system. Okay. Since we are the payer of the claims and very close to the customer, we want to help the customer to A, have a better medical experience at lower cost, meaning working more on prevention, working more on care coordination. So how do you find the right doctor? How do you find him or her quickly? And also dealing in the chronic disease area, which is 20% of the cases that make 80% of the cost, be more efficient, but also more pleasant and more convenient to the customer.
I'm pretty sure many people here don't know about the telecabines that you've created. Maybe you could explain in 2 or 3 words how it works.
So the traditional experience is when you are ill or when your child is ill, you cannot do anything right this minute. You have to wait until the next morning. You phone the doctor's office. You get an appointment 3 days if you are lucky afterwards, or for a specialist 5 months. By then you are either dead or your illness is gone. And so what we have developed with the cabins or the telemedicine service is that you can call immediately. It's either by call or by video. And in 70% of the cases, we solve your problem. And it's extremely convenient. I mean, if your son or your daughter at 2 o'clock in the night has fever, you rather want it resolved now than spending the whole night being awake and going to a doctor I don't know when. And so it's extremely convenient, and coming from 0 customers to 10 million in 2 years shows you that there is a very high demand.
And where is it implanted?
In France, essentially everywhere. We've done it everywhere, but France today is the biggest operation.
Let's move on to the next question. So Alex, who's from École 42, once again, is asking you, what would you say that a traditional company like AXA can learn a lot from fintechs and insurtechs?
We can learn a lot because if you look, I mean, in our industry, a lot of fintechs have been created, a lot of insurtechs have been created, and I think maybe the 3 iconic ones are Oscar in the US, which is like a fully digital health insurer. ZhongAn in China. China is very good in that area, which is very much working on blockchain, small insurances. And then in France, you have Alain, which is also a health insurer. What can we learn from them? Extreme customer focus, extreme simplicity, and an agility that we have. We can really learn from. And so I find it sad that often we look at it as competitors of us because they have specialized themselves in some areas of the value chain. And I think we should change and say, look, how can we work together and how can we learn from each other? And therefore, AXA has built a very large ecosystem where we look from scouting of those new ideas to investing into them, to partnering with them, to really make sure that we have the full width of it. And we've even gone that we're building those businesses ourselves. So we have created an incubator called Kamet, where we build businesses that do cannibalize ourselves.
Okay, let's move on to the last part of this live, which concerns the behaviors and the values at work. So Ségolène from HEC Paris is wondering if gender parity is important in your company and if women have the same place as men.
So it's very important in our company, and we were one of the first ones that have started very early on, because we do believe that diversity in opinion and inclusion, and this is not only true for the question of male and female, it's also true for the question of nationality, and the fact that a German is at the head of AXA as one of the iconic French companies is also a sign of diversity. And it also goes to intergenerational diversity. Coming back to the women, when we look at today's workforce at AXA, we have 53% women, so we are quite balanced. But certainly when you look into the management ranks, we see that we are not yet at 53%. When I first came in touch with the topic was 2009. We had 9% of women in leadership positions. Today, we already in the top 150 are at 30%. And my goal is, and the entire organization's goal is, to go to 50%, so to parity, by 2023. If we can get there earlier, even better. However, this is only the top 150. If you go and look at the whole senior executive, we need, if we just let the career management play, 42 years to get to parity. So there is a tremendous effort needed from our side, and I'm looking at this every day, and every time I challenge people, look, have you considered this, have you done that, in order to make sure that we get there. And it requires that the pipeline of very talented female leaders, we need to take extra care of, to really help them and expose them, to mentor them, but at the same time also to retain them. Because we've been very early, because we have many, relatively a lot of women in leadership, there's also other companies that are interesting themselves now into our female leaders, and I would not like to lose them.
And what would you say to the young students, like women, who would want to work here?
You are always welcome to come here. I think you've seen, we have an environment that is very diverse, where we have a very, very clear commitment to diversity, but again, broader than just male and female. It is an environment that is very much driven by strong values. Don't forget, I'm only the third CEO in over 30 years of AXA, so it's a very long-term view. And it's a purpose of the company that is extremely rooted in the middle of society. How can we empower people to live a better life?
Okay, and how, Lionel from EPFL is asking you, how big is the corporate social responsibility at AXA?
So it's very, very big because, as I said earlier, we are operating in the middle of society. A, we are a very large investor. And B, we are paying claims and can exactly see how social tendencies, how environmental tendencies are playing out. And therefore, we've taken some very drastic measures as a leader. And I want to mention two examples. One is our divestment from coal. We've gone out of coal because we say, look, this is not sustainable anymore. And we see it also in areas where there is a lot of exposure to coal on the health insurance side. We've also gone out of tobacco because we see the same thing. It's very clear, as of the first cigarette, it's bad. And we see it again in our health claims. And therefore we said, look, we are going out of tobacco. We want to dry this industry out and want to give our contribution to the maximum we can to contribute to it.
So health, environment, those are the main causes you're fighting for.
That goes on. I mean, look, you can imagine much more, and we are in the process of planning the next step. I mean, think about another important topic, which is the topic around sugar. Think about plastic. Think about biodiversity. Those are big topics that are on my radar for the next wave.
Okay, so you're talking about it, and we're looking forward to
hear
about it. The next question is from Antoine from Saint-Gallen. He's asking you, how much importance do you put on attracting young talents?
We put a lot of importance on it because, as I said earlier, for me this intergenerational diversity is extremely important. I have realized in the last 5 years that I have also become old now, because there's a lot of new talents coming up that have a very different view of the world, which I think is often a much better view, because it's very much linked to what is my purpose in life and how can I contribute to the good of society, which I find amazing. And therefore, when you look around me, there's a lot of young people working that also sit at the table of decision to make sure that we have a balanced decision, and that these young guys and girls can really also realize their dreams and give us their input. And the reason why I say it, when I started very early on, I said earlier I had no time to design my strategy and my team strategy. So what we did a workshop with young talents and a workshop with senior leaders. Same question at the same time. We had the senior leaders giving us very political answers, the young talents giving us the real answers, and I still benefit from this workshop. So every young talent is extremely welcome to have a great career at AXA.
What would be for you our best quality for my generation?
In terms of a leader?
Yeah, for example.
So I think it goes back to very much what I said earlier about myself. I would like to have people that have a clear dream what they want to achieve, a clear vision what they want to achieve, and not being drifted by the daily wave. They need to swim themselves against the stream. I want people who are really capable in working in a team and not by themselves or in silos. And I want people that are ready to learn, give and take feedback. And those are important principles to shape yourself as a leader.
Would you say that we have so much differences between the generations because of the digital age, or because of something else?
No, I think it's something very different. I think when I go back to my generation, it was very much, how can I make sure that I get to a better stage of life than my parents had? And we have realized now, with all the changes in social welfare and so on, that this is over. And so the new generation needs to find a different goal, and I think it's a better goal, which leads also to a different lifestyle and also to a different way of working and living. And the question of balance in life is a very different one today than it used to be in my generation. The question of contributing to society is very different today than it used to be in my generation. And so I think these are extremely valuable assets that add to the diversity of our life, which we should really listen to.
Then we've got Sarah, who's asking you how much importance you put on the digital.
For us, this is extremely important, because when I said earlier, we want to move our model from paying claims to being the partner of the customer. In order to be the partner, I need to have contact with the customer. I cannot send an agent every time to be in touch. Digital offers a way of getting in touch with customer in a very easy, in a very convenient way. So for me, it's absolutely central that I'm using digital as a means to connect with people and not as a means to just turn paper into screen.
So, for example, you have an application for your clients or something like this?
Yes, so we have My AXA, it's called, where there is a full digital interaction possible. I can store all my contracts, I can hand in my claims, but again, this is, I would say, the hygiene condition. Take the example of telemedicine. Yeah. This is fully digital. And I can even, if you go into our UK operation, you have areas on prevention where you have programs fully digital where you can improve your life. And this constant contact and constant interaction is extremely important. And you can even go a step further, go to the École 42 model. you can also imagine that in the future, there is, the insurance is the facilitator of a very large community of insured people that help each other.
So you would want to create some kind of community?
Yes, essentially, insurance business is a community where one helps the other. And I think digital enables us to go back to the roots of how it started.
I really have to ask you the last question, otherwise it's going to be too late. So Erwan from École 42 is asking you if engineers can innovate within AXA, or do they have to follow the instructions given by their supervisors?
So École 42 is a very productive university, it seems. No, I mean, look, we are exactly looking for those profiles, because we are going into new territory with launching new services, with creating a digital landscape, and everybody who can contribute to it, be it data scientists, be it engineers, are extremely welcome, and we want these people to really help us to get there. And this is a great place and an entrepreneurial place to really fulfill your dreams that you have in your life.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Buberl.
I think we still have one topic to solve.
Do we have?
Which is exactly the challenge. So one of you will be able to accompany me for one day. This is your challenge, and I'm very happy to accompany and welcome this one person that will have the joy of spending one day with me and seeing if all the answers I gave now are also reality of my daily life.
Thanks, Mr. Buberl, and good luck with the challenge.
Thank you. Bye-bye.